At Father's Day brunch, my 6-year-old son gave my brother-in-law a handmade card he had worked on for 2 weeks. My brother-in-law laughed, tossed it aside, and said, "This is garbage. Get me a real gift next time." My son ran to the bathroom crying. I didn't yell. I picked up the card, opened it, and read aloud what my father had written on the inside before he died. To my grandson, the account number for your college fund is. My brother-in-law collapsed in his chair. The restaurant went quiet. Not the kind of quiet where conversations fade naturally, but the kind where every single person at the surrounding tables stopped mid-sentence and turned to look. My brother-in-law's face had gone the color of concrete. My sister reached for his arm, her mimosa trembling in her other hand. My mother's fork clattered against her plate. And I just stood there, holding a construction paper card decorated with stick figures and glitter glue, reading my dead father's handwriting out loud to a room full of strangers. Let me tell you how we got here. My name is Jennifer. I am 41 years old. I have one son, Marcus, who just turned 6. I have been a widow for 3 years. And for the last decade, my family has treated me like I am one medical emergency away from asking them for money. They are not entirely wrong about the medical emergency part. My husband died of a brain aneurysm when Marcus was 3. No warning. No time to prepare. One morning he kissed us both goodbye and went to work at the warehouse, and by lunch I was in a hospital room watching them turn off machines. He was 34. We had $14,000 in savings and a mortgage we had just refinanced because we thought we had time. What my family gets wrong is everything that happened after that. My sister Ashley is 4 years older than me. She married Derek 9 years ago, a finance guy who wears tailored suits to backyard barbecues and has never once asked me a question about my life that was not a setup for advice I did not request. Ashley works part-time doing social media for a dental office. They live in a 4-bedroom house in the suburbs with a 3-car garage. They have no children. Ashley has opinions about how I am raising mine. My mother lives 20 minutes from Ashley. She sold the family house 2 years after my father died and moved into a condo with granite countertops and a gym she has never used. She plays bunco twice a month and takes a cruise every February. She refers to my career as my little job. I work in insurance. Specifically, I sell commercial insurance policies to mid-sized businesses. It is not glamorous. It requires understanding risk assessment, liability structures, and an unholy amount of paperwork. Most people's eyes glaze over when I explain what I do. My family stopped asking after the first year. What they do not know is that I am good at it. Very good. The pattern started small. 3 months after my husband died, Ashley invited me to lunch. She spent 40 minutes telling me about a new Mediterranean place before saying she and Derek had been talking, and they thought I should consider moving back in with Mom for a while, just until I got back on my feet. I should not be ashamed, she said. Plenty of single mothers need help. I told her I appreciated the concern. I did not tell her I had just closed a policy with a manufacturing company that would net me an $18,000 commission. 6 months later, my mother called. She had seen a job posting for an administrative assistant at her dentist's office. $22 an hour, benefits after 90 days. She had already put in a good word for me. Would I not feel more stable with something reliable? I thanked her for thinking of me. I did not mention that I had earned $73,000 that year, or that I had started building a client base that returned annually. A year after that, Derek cornered me at Thanksgiving. He had a friend at Northwestern Mutual, entry-level position, very stable company, great for someone starting over. He could make an introduction. He said this while standing in front of the dessert table, holding a plate with 3 different pies on it, talking to me like I was a college graduate interviewing for her first real job. I smiled. I told him I would think about it. That morning I had signed a contract with a logistics company that would pay me $42,000 over the next 18 months. You see the pattern. They offer help. I accept graciously. I do not correct them. And I go back to work. The thing about selling commercial insurance is that it is almost entirely referral-based once you build momentum. A good client tells another business owner. That business owner has a colleague. The colleague has a partner. Within 3 years, I had a network that sustained itself. I was not making cold calls anymore. I was getting invited to sit down with CFOs who had already decided they wanted to work with me before I walked in the room. By the time Marcus turned 5, I was clearing 6 figures annually. I drove a 7-year-old Toyota Camry with a dent in the rear bumper. I bought my clothes at Marshall's. I lived in the same 1,500 square foot house my husband and I had bought together. My family looked at my life and saw exactly what they expected to see. Here is what they did not see. The house was paid off. The mortgage I mentioned earlier, the one we refinanced thinking we had time? I paid it in full 11 months after my husband died. It took almost every dollar of savings I had left plus my first 4 big commissions, but I did it. No one knew except my accountant. They did not see the investment account I opened in Marcus's name. They did not see the life insurance policy I carried that would pay out $800,000 if anything happened to me. They did not see the retirement accounts or the emergency fund that could cover 18 months of expenses without me touching a single investment. What they saw was a widow in discount jeans driving an old car. And, because that is what they saw, they felt comfortable offering advice. Constantly. Ashley told me I should look into food assistance programs. I was too proud, she said, and there was no shame in it. This was at a family dinner where she ordered a $40 steak. My mother suggested I ask my employer about hardship withdrawal from my 401k to cover Marcus's preschool tuition. I had already paid the full year in advance. Derek, every single time I saw him, found a way to mention financial literacy courses. As though I had never heard of a budget. As though I was not sitting across from him having quadrupled my income in 3 years while he was still making the same salary he started with, plus cost of living adjustments. If you're the kind of person who roots for the underdog, and I mean really roots for them, go ahead and subscribe. Because what I did next is the reason I am telling you this story. I never corrected them because I was building something they could not see. And I needed them not to see it. My father died when I was 36. Stroke. He was 71. He and my mother had been married for 46 years. He was a machinist, worked for the same company for 33 years, retired with a pension and a workshop full of tools he never got to use as much as he wanted. 2 weeks before he died, he asked me to come over. Just me. He said he wanted to talk about something. I thought he was going to tell me he was sick. He had looked tired lately, moved a little slower. We sat in his workshop. He had a woodworking project half-finished on the bench, a jewelry box he was making for my mother's birthday. He told me he had been thinking about Marcus. About what kind of world he was growing up in. About how fast everything was changing. Then he told me he had opened an account for Marcus. A college fund. He had been putting money into it every month since Marcus was born. Not a lot, he said. Just what he could manage. But it was something. He made me promise not to tell my mother yet. She would want to do something with it now, help Ashley with something, redistribute it. He wanted Marcus to have it. Just Marcus. He gave me a piece of paper with the account information. He told me the balance was at $11,000. He said he hoped it would help when the time came. I folded that paper and put it in my wallet. I told him it meant everything. I told him Marcus would know what his grandfather did for him. He died 9 days later. At the funeral, my mother was dignified. Ashley cried beautifully. Derek stood with his hands folded and his face arranged in appropriate solemnity. I held Marcus and thought about a half-finished jewelry box and a man who put $50 a month into an account for a grandson he would never see graduate. After the service, after the reception, after everyone had gone home, I sat at my kitchen table and looked at that piece of paper. $11,000. My father had given my son a foundation. I decided that day what I was going to do with it. I did not touch the account. Not $1. Instead, I added to it. Every month, the same amount my father had been contributing. $50. It felt important to maintain his rhythm. But I also opened a separate account, one my father had not known about, one that was entirely mine to manage. I called it the Real Fund. Into the Real Fund, I put everything extra. Every commission over my base cost of living. Every bonus. Every unexpected client. I was aggressive with it in a way I had never been with my own retirement accounts. I bought index funds. I bought blue-chip dividend stocks. I bought a small position in a tech company my brother-in-law had mentioned dismissively at a Christmas party, saying it was overhyped. That position tripled. The account my father opened sat quietly, growing at whatever rate the bank's standard savings account offered. $50 a month, just like he had done. The real fund grew like a wildfire. By the time Marcus turned 6, my father's original account had grown to $16,000. The real fund had $68,000 in it. I had also done something else. Something my father would have appreciated, but never would have thought to do himself. I had started documenting everything. Every time my family made a comment about my finances, I wrote it down. Every piece of unsolicited advice. Every offer of help that came wrapped in pity. I did not do this because I am vindictive. I did it because I am thorough. And because somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew there would come a moment when I would need to remind them exactly how wrong they had been. December, 2 years after my father died. Family Christmas. Ashley was holding court in my mother's living room, talking about the vacation she and Derek were planning. 10 days in Turks and Caicos. All-inclusive resort. She turned to me and said she wished I could do something like that someday, maybe when Marcus was older and I had more flexibility. She said this while wearing a bracelet that cost more than my monthly grocery budget. I smiled. I had closed a deal with a regional hospital network that morning. $96,000 over 2 years. March, 3 years after my father died. My mother called to tell me about a community program offering free tax preparation for low-income families. She thought I might qualify. She meant well. I told her I had already filed. I did not tell her my accountant charged me $800 and saved me $4,200 in deductions. July, same year. Derek asked me, in front of Marcus, if I had thought about what I was going to do when Marcus got older and needed things. Sports equipment. School trips. College. He said it was never too early to start planning. He said this like he was introducing me to a concept I had never encountered. Marcus asked me later what college was. I told him it was school for grown-ups, and he was definitely going. He asked if it cost money. I said yes, but he did not need to worry about it. Grandpa had made sure of that. That was the truth. Just not the whole truth. By the time Father's Day rolled around this year, the pattern had become unbearable. Not because it hurt anymore. It did not. I had stopped taking it personally somewhere around the 2nd year. What had become unbearable was watching my son start to notice. Marcus is 6. He is smart. He listens. And he had started to pick up on the way his uncle spoke to me. The way his grandmother sighed when I said I could not afford something I simply did not want to buy. The way Ashley patted my hand like I was someone who needed comforting. 2 weeks before Father's Day, Marcus came home from school with a project. They were making cards. The teacher had sent home a note saying the kids could make them for fathers, grandfathers, uncles, or any father figure in their lives. Marcus did not have a father. He barely remembered his grandfather. But he had spent enough time around Derek to decide, with the logic of a 6-year-old, that his uncle was close enough. He worked on that card for hours. Multiple days. He used every art supply we had in the house. Markers, colored pencils, glitter glue, stickers. He drew a picture of himself and Derek standing next to a car. He wrote his name in careful, shaky letters. He folded the card precisely, the way his teacher had shown him. He was so proud of it. I knew Derek would say something. That was the problem. I knew my brother-in-law well enough to know that he would not just accept the card and say thank you. He would make a joke. He would say something about how kids these days do not understand the value of a real gift. He would say it in front of Marcus. And Marcus would hear it. I could have told Marcus not to give Derek the card. I could have suggested he make one for someone else, save this one for a different occasion. But I did not. Because I realized I was tired of managing everyone else's behavior to protect my son from their carelessness. I also realized something else. Father's Day brunch was in 2 weeks. My sister had already sent the group text. 11 a.m. at the restaurant near the mall, the one with the bottomless mimosas and the Belgian waffles Ashley loves. My mother had replied with a thumbs-up emoji. Derek had replied asking if they took reservations. I replied that Marcus and I would be there. Then I went to my office and pulled out a folder I had been keeping for 3 years. The folder contained printouts, account statements, letters from my father's bank showing the original account he had opened, letters from my bank showing the deposits I had made, a full breakdown of the real fund, every contribution, every growth point, every dividend. I also pulled out something else, a letter my father had written. I found it 6 months after he died, tucked inside the jewelry box he had been making for my mother. He had finished it before he died, somehow, in those last 9 days. My mother had opened it on her birthday and cried. Inside, folded into the velvet lining, was an envelope with my name on it. The letter was 2 pages. My father was not a man who wrote much, and his handwriting was blocky and careful, like he had taken his time. He told me he was proud of me. He told me he knew I was stronger than people gave me credit for. He told me he had been watching the way I handled things after my husband died, and he wanted me to know he saw it. He saw how hard I worked. He saw how I never complained. He saw how I made it look easy even when it was not. And then he told me about the account for Marcus. He said he wished he could do more. He said he hoped it would help. He said he knew I would make sure Marcus had what he needed, but this was his way of being part of it. At the bottom of the second page, in larger letters, like he wanted to make sure I did not miss it, he wrote, "Make sure he knows where this came from. Make sure he knows his grandpa believed in him." I had read that letter so many times the creases were starting to wear thin. I had never shown it to anyone. I made a copy. I put the original back in my safe deposit box. I put the copy in the folder with the account statements. Then I did something that felt a little ridiculous, but also necessary. I practiced. I stood in my kitchen, holding the folder, and I practiced reading the account number out loud. I practiced keeping my voice level. I practiced not crying, because if I cried it would give my family an excuse to make this about emotion instead of fact. I practiced for 3 nights. Marcus asked me what I was doing. I told him I was working on something for Grandpa. He accepted this without question. The Friday before Father's Day, I called my accountant. Her name is Patricia Reyes. She has been doing my taxes for 4 years. She is 62 years old, drives a Lexus, and does not suffer fools. I told her what I was planning to do. I asked her if there was any legal issue with reading account information out loud in a public place. She was quiet for a moment. Then she laughed. She said, "Jennifer, whose account is it?" I told her it was Marcus's. She said, "And who is the custodian on the account?" I told her I was. She said, "Then you can read it on a billboard if you want to. It is your business and his business. No one else's." Then she said something I did not expect. She said, "For what it is worth, I think your father would approve." I had not told her about my father's letter. But Patricia had been doing my taxes long enough to see the account when it first appeared. She had asked about it once, and I had told her the short version. She had nodded and made a note in my file and never brought it up again. I thanked her. She told me to call her on Monday. She wanted to hear how it went. The night before Father's Day, I could not sleep. Not because I was nervous. I was not. I knew exactly what I was going to do. But because I kept thinking about my father's workshop and the smell of sawdust and the way he had looked at me when he told me about the account. Like he was trusting me with something important. I got up at 2 in the morning and went to check on Marcus. He was asleep with the card on his nightstand, already sealed in an envelope he had decorated with stickers. He had written Uncle Derek on the front in blue marker. I went back to my room and pulled out the folder one more time. I read my father's letter again. I read the account statements. I read the breakdown of the real fund. $84,000 now. I had added another $16,000 in the last 4 months. A hospital network renewal. A new client in manufacturing. A referral that had turned into 3 separate policies. If you are still here, I need you to do something for me. Hit subscribe. Because in about 2 minutes, everything I just told you about, every quiet meeting, every document, every number, it all comes together. And I do not want you to miss it. I put the folder in my purse. I set my alarm. I went to sleep. Father's Day. Sunday. I woke up at 7. Marcus was already awake, sitting at the kitchen table with the card in front of him, eating cereal. He asked me if Uncle Derek would like it. I told him Uncle Derek was going to remember this card for the rest of his life. We got dressed. Marcus wore the button-up shirt we had bought for school pictures. I wore jeans and a plain sweater. Nothing fancy. I did not need to look fancy. We drove to the restaurant. Ashley had texted the night before confirming the reservation was for 11. We arrived at 10:58. My mother's car was already in the parking lot. So was Ashley's SUV. I held Marcus's hand as we walked in. He clutched the card against his chest with his other hand. The hostess recognized my mother's name and led us to the table. It was a round table near the windows. My mother sat facing the door. Ashley sat to her right. Derek sat to her left. There was a high chair pushed against the wall, even though Marcus had not needed a high chair in 3 years. My mother stood up and hugged me. She smelled like the same perfume she had worn my entire life. She kissed Marcus on the head and told him he looked handsome. Ashley waved from her seat. Derek nodded. We sat down. Marcus climbed into the chair next to Derek. I sat between Marcus and my mother. The waitress came over. My mother ordered a mimosa. Ashley ordered a Bellini. Derek ordered coffee. I ordered water. The waitress left. Ashley started talking about the reservation she had made for brunch next month, some new place downtown with a chef who had been on a cooking show. My mother asked if they had gluten-free options. Derek checked his phone. Marcus looked at me. I nodded. He picked up the card. He tapped Derek on the arm. Derek looked down. Marcus held out the card and said, "Happy Father's Day, Uncle Derek." Derek took the card. He looked at it. He looked at the stickers and the uneven letters and the drawing of the car. He turned it over. He looked at the back, where Marcus had signed his name 3 times because he was not sure which version looked best. Then Derek laughed. Not a polite chuckle. A full laugh. He held the card up so Ashley could see it. He said, "This is garbage. Get me a real gift next time." Marcus's face crumpled. He slid out of his chair and ran. I heard the bathroom door slam from across the restaurant. My mother said, "Derek, that was harsh." But she said it quietly, like she was commenting on the weather. Ashley said, "He is just joking, Marcus is sensitive." Derek put the card on the table. He went back to his phone. I did not yell. I did not stand up. I reached across the table and picked up the card. I opened it. Inside, in my father's handwriting on a piece of paper I had taped to the construction paper 2 days ago, were 3 lines. To my grandson Marcus. The account number for your college fund is 4177-29653-88. Your grandpa loves you. Make him proud. I read it out loud. Every word. Slow and clear. The table went silent. I kept going. I pulled the folder out of my purse. I pulled out the account statement from my father's bank, showing the original deposits. $50 a month. Starting the month Marcus was born. Ending the month my father died. I laid it on the table in front of my mother. Then I pulled out my bank statement. The one showing my deposits. $50 a month. Continuing where my father left off. I laid that one next to the first. Then I pulled out the real fund statement. The one showing $84,000 in an account with Marcus's name on it and mine as custodian. I said, "This is what Marcus has for college." $84,000. In addition to the $16,000 my father started. That is $100,000 total. He is 6 years old. Derek's face had gone pale. Ashley had both hands over her mouth. My mother was staring at the papers like they were written in a language she did not recognize. I said, "My father wanted Marcus to have this. He wanted Marcus to know it came from him. He wrote Marcus a letter before he died explaining it. That letter is in a safe deposit box along with instructions for the account to be turned over to Marcus on his 18th birthday." I folded the card closed. I put it back in the envelope. I put the papers back in the folder. Then I stood up. I walked to the bathroom. I pushed open the door and found Marcus sitting on the floor in the corner, crying into his knees. I sat down next to him. I put my arm around him. I said, Uncle Derek did not understand what he was looking at. Sometimes grown-ups do not understand things right away. But Grandpa's gift is safe. And it is real. And it is yours. Marcus looked up at me. His face was blotchy and his nose was running. He said, "Did Grandpa really save money for me?" I said he did. Every single month from the day you were born until the day he died. Because he loved you. And he wanted you to have something important. Marcus wiped his nose on his sleeve. He said, "Can we go home?" I said, "In a minute. First, I need to go finish something." We walked back to the table. Everyone was still sitting exactly where I had left them. The papers were still on the table. No one had touched them. I picked up my purse. I looked at Derek. I looked at Derek. I didn't say anything. I just looked at him until he looked back. Then I said, "You owe my son an apology." Derek's face shifted. Not embarrassed. Annoyed. "Come on, Jennifer. He'll get over it. Kids are resilient. Apologize to him." Ashley leaned forward. "Jen, don't make this a thing. Derek didn't mean anything by it." I turned to her. He told a 6-year-old his handmade gift was garbage. In front of a room full of people. That's exactly what he meant. My mother touched my arm. "Sweetheart, maybe we should just..." "No." I pulled my arm away. Marcus worked on that card for 2 weeks. He drew pictures. He practiced writing Derek's name. He was so excited to give it to him. And Derek laughed at him. Derek set his coffee down. It was a joke. Jokes are funny. That was cruel. The table next to us had gone completely quiet. I could feel them listening. I didn't care. Derek's jaw tightened. "You're being dramatic." "Am I?" I picked up the folder again. Because from where I'm sitting, the only dramatic thing happening here is you having to confront the fact that you've spent the last 6 years giving financial advice to someone who has more money than you do. Ashley's eyes widened. "Jennifer. $84,000, I said. That's what Marcus has right now. By the time he's 18, if I keep contributing at the current rate, it'll be closer to 200,000. Maybe more, depending on market performance." Derek opened his mouth. Nothing came out. I kept going. "And that's just the college fund. That doesn't include the life insurance policy I carry. That doesn't include my retirement accounts. That doesn't include the fact that I own my house outright and have for the last 4 years. My mother was staring at me like I had started speaking a different language. "Jennifer, what are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact that I have been listening to this family give me financial advice for 6 years, and not one of you ever asked if I needed it. You just assumed." Ashley found her voice. "You drive a Camry. It runs. Why would I replace it? You shop at Marshall's. Their clearance section has good deals. You never said." "I never said anything because you never asked. You saw what you wanted to see. A struggling widow. Someone to feel sorry for. Someone who needed your help." Derek was gripping the edge of the table. His knuckles had gone white. "If you had all this money, why didn't you say something?" "Why would I?" "So you could stop offering me advice I didn't need? So my mother could stop sending me job postings? So Ashley could stop patting my hand and telling me things would get better someday?" I shook my head. "I didn't say anything because I was building something. And I didn't need your permission or your approval to do it." The waitress appeared at the edge of the table. She looked at all of us, at the papers spread across the table, at Marcus's card lying in the middle of it all. "Is everything okay here?" "We're fine," my mother said automatically. The waitress hesitated, then left. I looked at Derek again. "You're going to apologize to Marcus. Not because I'm asking you to. Because it's the right thing to do." Derek didn't move. Ashley put her hand on his arm. Derek just... "Fine." He stood up. The chair scraped against the floor. "I'll apologize. Now." He walked toward the bathroom. I watched him go. Then I turned back to my mother and Ashley. My mother's hands were folded in her lap. She was looking at the account statements like they might disappear if she blinked. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because you would have told Ashley. And Ashley would have told Derek. And then everyone would have had opinions about what I should do with it. Whether I was investing it correctly. Whether I should be saving more or spending differently. And I didn't want opinions. I wanted to build something for my son without anyone else's input. I'm your mother. I know. And I love you. But you haven't treated me like I was capable of taking care of myself since the day my husband died. She flinched. I softened my voice. Not much, but enough. You offered to let me move in with you 3 months after he died. You didn't ask if I needed help. You just assumed I did. And when I said no, you looked at me like I was being stubborn. Like I didn't understand how hard things were going to be. I was trying to help. I know. But I didn't need that kind of help. I needed you to believe I could handle it. Ashley was crying. Not loudly. Just tears running down her face, smudging her mascara. I didn't know. You didn't ask. I thought. She stopped. Started again. I thought you were struggling. I was. For about 8 months after he died, I was barely holding it together. But then I wasn't. And none of you noticed. We were trying to be supportive. You were trying to manage me. There's a difference. Derek came back from the bathroom. Marcus was with him, holding his hand. Marcus's face was still red, but he wasn't crying anymore. Derek stopped next to the table. He looked at Marcus, then at me. I apologized. Marcus nodded. He said he was sorry for being mean about my card. I pulled Marcus onto my lap. Good. Derek sat down. He didn't look at anyone. The table was silent for a long moment. Then my mother picked up one of the account statements. She read it slowly, her lips moving slightly. She set it down. Picked up another one. Read that one too. $100,000, she said quietly. Yes. Your father would be proud. Something in my chest loosened. Just a little. I know. She looked at me. Really looked at me. I'm sorry. For what? For not seeing you. I didn't know what to say to that. So I just nodded. Ashley wiped her face with her napkin. Her hands were shaking. Can we start over? Maybe. But not today. She nodded. She understood. Derek was still gripping the table. I don't understand why you let us think. Because it wasn't your business, I said. My finances aren't your business. My career isn't your business. The only reason you're finding out now is because you were cruel to my son. I said I was sorry. To him. Not to me. He looked at me. Something shifted in his expression. Not quite understanding, but close. I'm sorry. For what, specifically? His jaw worked. For underestimating you. And for telling my son his card was garbage. And for that. I stood up, still holding Marcus. We're leaving. My mother started to protest, then stopped. She just nodded. I gathered the papers, put them back in the folder, put the folder back in my purse. I picked up Marcus's card from the table. The one Derek had thrown aside. I handed it to Marcus. Do you want to keep this, or do you want Uncle Derek to have it? Marcus looked at the card. He looked at Derek. He thought about it for a long moment. Then he held it out to Derek. You can have it. Grandpa wanted you to see it. Derek took the card. His hands were shaking now too. He opened it. He read my father's handwriting. He read it twice. Then he closed it carefully and set it on the table in front of him. Thank you, Marcus. Marcus nodded. We left. In the car, Marcus was quiet. He looked out the window for a while. Then he said, Are you mad at Uncle Derek? A little. Are you mad at me? I looked at him in the rearview mirror. Why would I be mad at you? Because I made you sad. You didn't make me sad, baby. Uncle Derek made me sad. And he made you sad. But we're okay now. Is Grandpa's money real? It's very real. Can I use it to buy a video game? I laughed. It came out harder than I expected, almost like a sob. No, it's for college. But we can buy you a video game with different money if you want. Okay. We drove home. I made lunch. Marcus ate and then went to play in his room. I sat at the kitchen table and pulled out the folder again. I had not planned to do that. Not like that. I had a whole speech prepared. Points I was going to make. Evidence I was going to present in a specific order. The plan was to stay calm, stay strategic, make them understand without making them defensive. Instead, I had read my father's note out loud in a crowded restaurant and dumped $100,000 worth of account statements on the table like I was throwing down a winning hand in poker. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Can we talk? Not yet, I wrote back. Another text, this one from Ashley. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Please don't shut us out. I stared at that one for a while. Then I put the phone down without responding. At 3 in the afternoon, my phone rang. Patricia. I answered. You said to call you on Monday. It's Sunday. I have a calendar, she said. I also have a very active imagination. How did it go? I told her. All of it. The card, Derek's reaction, Marcus running to the bathroom, the account statements on the table, my mother's face, Ashley's tears, Derek's shock. When I finished, Patricia was quiet for a moment. Then she said, Did it feel good? I don't know. I'm still processing. Well, when you figure it out, let me know. I've been doing your taxes for 4 years, and I've wanted to tell your family to go to hell at least 6 times. I laughed. You've never met my family. I've read your tax returns. I know enough. After I hung up with Patricia, I sat at the table and tried to figure out what I was feeling. Not triumphant. Not vindicated, exactly. Maybe relieved. Like I had been holding my breath for 6 years and had finally let it out. Marcus came into the kitchen. Mom, can we go to the park? Sure. We went to the park. Marcus played on the swings. I sat on a bench and watched him. He was fine. Completely fine. The thing about 6-year-olds is that they process things and move on faster than adults do. Derek had hurt him, Derek had apologized, and now Marcus was launching himself off the swing and laughing when he landed. I wished I could do that. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Ashley. Then one from my mother. Then, surprisingly, one from Derek. I didn't read any of them. On Monday morning, I dropped Marcus off at school and went to work. I had a meeting with a potential client, a manufacturing company looking to update their liability coverage. The owner was a woman in her 50s who had built the company from nothing and now employed 40 people. We talked about risk assessment and coverage limits and deductibles. She signed the contract. As I was packing up my briefcase, she said, "Can I ask you something personal?" "Sure." "How long did it take you to stop feeling like you had to prove yourself?" I looked at her. "I'll let you know when I get there." She smiled. Fair enough. That week was strange. I went to work, came home, made dinner, helped Marcus with homework, put him to bed. Normal routine. But my phone kept buzzing with texts I wasn't ready to answer. Ashley sent me 6 messages over 3 days. The first was an apology. The second was a longer apology. The third was asking if we could meet for coffee. The 4th through 6th were variations of "Please talk to me." My mother called twice. I let it go to voicemail. She left messages saying she wanted to explain, she wanted to understand, she just wanted to talk. Derek sent one text. It said, "I owe you more than an apology. I'm sorry for all of it." On Thursday, I finally responded to my mother. "We can talk next week." She wrote back immediately. "Thank you." I didn't respond to Ashley or Derek. On Saturday, Marcus asked if we were going to see Grandma soon. I told him yes, probably next weekend. He asked if Uncle Derek would be there. I said I didn't know. He said okay and went back to building something with Legos. The following Tuesday, I met my mother for coffee. Not at the place near her house, not at the place near mine. Neutral ground. A coffee shop halfway between. She was already there when I arrived. She had ordered me a latte. She remembered how I took it. We sat down. For a long minute, neither of us said anything. Then she said, "I didn't know I was doing that to you." "Doing what?" "Treating you like you couldn't handle things. Assuming you needed saving." She wrapped both hands around her coffee cup. "I thought I was being helpful." "I know. Your father saw it." She said this quietly, looking down at her coffee. "Before he died, he told me I needed to trust you more. He said you were stronger than I was giving you credit for." I told him I knew that, but I didn't really believe it. Not the way he did. I felt something tighten in my throat. "He told you that?" "The same day he told you about the account. He made me promise I would let you handle things your way." I promised. And then he died, and I got scared, and I broke that promise. She looked up at me. Her eyes were red. "I'm sorry, Jennifer. I'm sorry I didn't trust you. I'm sorry I made you feel like you had to hide what you'd accomplished. I'm sorry I didn't see you." I reached across the table and took her hand. "I'm sorry too." For what? You didn't do anything wrong. For not telling you sooner. For letting you think I was struggling when I wasn't. For not giving you a chance to be proud of me. She squeezed my hand. I am proud of you. I've always been proud of you. I just didn't know how to show it without also trying to fix things that didn't need fixing. We talked for 2 hours. She asked me about my work, really asked, wanted to know how I had built my client base, what I loved about it, what was hard. I told her things I had never told her before. She listened without interrupting, without offering advice, just listened. At the end, she said, "Can I meet you for coffee again next week?" Yes. And maybe, eventually, you'll bring Marcus over? I miss him. He misses you too. We stood up. She hugged me. It felt different than it usually did. Less like she was trying to hold me up and more like she was just holding me. If you are watching this unfold and you are not subscribed yet, now is the time. Because what she said next changed everything. 2 weeks after Father's Day, Ashley showed up at my house. I opened the door and she was standing there, no makeup, wearing jeans and a t-shirt I recognized from high school. She looked smaller than usual. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside. We sat in my living room. Marcus was at a friend's house for a play date. The house was quiet. Ashley twisted her hands in her lap. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said. About how we never asked if you needed help, we just assumed. And you're right. We did assume. I assumed. I waited. I think I needed you to be struggling," she said. "Not because I wanted you to suffer, but because it made me feel better about my own life. Like I had something you didn't. Something I could offer. And when you didn't need it, when you were doing fine on your own, it made me feel useless." Ashley. No, let me finish. She took a breath. "Derek and I don't have kids. We've been trying for 3 years. We've done 2 rounds of IVF. It hasn't worked. And I think somewhere in my head, I made Marcus into this thing I could help you with because I couldn't have my own. Like being Aunt Ashley was the closest I could get. And when you didn't need my help, it felt like I didn't have a role anymore. I didn't know what to say to that. I'm not telling you this to make you feel sorry for me," she continued. "I'm telling you because I need you to understand that the way I treated you wasn't about you. It was about me. And that's not fair. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry too," I said. "About the IVF. I didn't know. I didn't tell you. I didn't tell anyone except Derek and Mom. I didn't want people to look at me the way I was looking at you. Like I needed fixing." We sat there for a while. Then Ashley said, "Can I ask you something? Why didn't you ever tell me to back off?" "Because you're my sister. And I thought if I told you to stop helping, you'd think I didn't want you around at all. That's what I was afraid of too. That if I stopped having advice to give, you wouldn't need me." "I do need you," I said. "Just not in that way." She wiped her eyes. "What way do you need me?" "I need you to be my sister. To be Marcus's aunt. To be someone I can call when something good happens and you'll just be happy for me without trying to improve it. I can do that. And I need you to talk to Derek about the way he talks to people. Because what he said to Marcus wasn't just mean, it was cruel. And if he talks to my son like that, he probably talks to other people like that too." Ashley nodded. "We've been talking about it. He knows he was wrong. He's not great at apologies, but he's trying. That's between you and him. But if he ever speaks to Marcus like that again, we're done. I don't care if he's family." "Understood." We talked for another hour. She told me about the IVF, the hormones, the waiting, the disappointment. I told her about the first year after my husband died, the nights I couldn't sleep, the mornings I didn't know how I was going to get through the day. We told each other true things instead of polite things. When she left, she hugged me at the door. "I love you. I love you too. And Jennifer? I really am proud of you. What you've built for Marcus, what you've built for yourself. It's incredible. That landed differently than I expected." I had to blink back tears. "Thank you." 3 weeks after Father's Day, I took Marcus to my mother's house for dinner. Just the 3 of us. My mother made pot roast, Marcus's favorite. We ate at the kitchen table, and my mother asked Marcus about school, about his friends, about the book he was reading. After dinner, while Marcus was watching a movie in the living room, my mother and I did dishes together. "I talked to your father's lawyer last week," she said. I looked at her. "Why?" Because I wanted to understand the account he set up for Marcus. The details. How it works. I didn't want to ask you because I thought you might think I was trying to get involved in something that's not my business. What did the lawyer say? That your father set it up as an irrevocable trust. That means I can't touch it even if I wanted to. It's Marcus's. And yours to manage until he's 18. She handed me a plate to dry. He did that on purpose. He didn't want me to have any control over it. He loved you. I know. But he also knew me. He knew I would want to help, want to redistribute, want to make sure everyone was taken care of equally. And he wanted to make sure Marcus had something that was just his. She paused, her hands in the soapy water. Your father was better at trusting you than I was. He had practice. He watched me grow up. You still see me as your daughter who needs protection. I'm working on that. She looked at me. Will you let me? Work on it. Yes. Over the next few months, things shifted. Slowly. My mother started asking me about work instead of telling me about job openings. Ashley started inviting me to things without trying to organize my life. Derek kept his distance, which was fine with me, but when we did see each other at family gatherings, he was polite to Marcus. Careful, even. In August, Marcus started first grade. I went to the open house and met his teacher, a woman in her 30s who had been teaching for 8 years. She asked about Marcus's home life, his interests, any concerns I had. I didn't mention that I was a widow. I didn't mention my financial situation. I just told her about Marcus. That he loved books. That he was good at math. That he sometimes had trouble sitting still but was working on it. She smiled. He sounds like a great kid. He is. In September, I closed the biggest deal of my career. A hospital network, 3-year contract, $270,000 in commissions over the life of the policy. I called Patricia first. She laughed and said she'd have to adjust my quarterly estimated taxes. Then I called my mother. I told her about the contract. She said, "That's incredible, sweetheart. You must have worked so hard for that." I did. Are you celebrating? I'm thinking about it. You should. You've earned it. After I hung up, I sat in my car in the hospital parking lot and cried. Not because I was sad. Because for the first time, I had told my mother about a professional victory and she had just been happy for me. No advice. No concern. No suggestions for what I should do with the money. Just pride. In October, Marcus asked if he could invite Uncle Derek to his birthday party. I asked him why. He said because Uncle Derek had apologized and Mom said we forgive people when they're sorry. I said that was true, but it was his birthday, so it was his choice. He thought about it. Then he said yes, Uncle Derek could come, but he had to promise not to be mean about the birthday cake if Marcus helped decorate it. I told Derek the terms. He accepted. The party was small. Just family. My mother, Ashley, Derek, and 2 of Marcus's friends from school. We had pizza and a cake that Marcus had helped decorate with so much frosting it was barely structurally sound. Derek ate a piece and told Marcus it was the best cake he'd ever had. Marcus beamed. After the party, after everyone had left, after Marcus was in bed, I sat in my kitchen and looked at the account statements I kept in a folder in my desk drawer. The college fund was at $107,000 now. The real fund was at $93,000. Combined, Marcus had $200,000 waiting for him. My father had started with $50 a month and a hope that it would help someday. I had turned it into a foundation. In November, I got a call from a colleague. She was starting her own insurance agency and wanted to know if I'd be interested in partnering. Bringing my client base, splitting the overhead, building something bigger together. I thought about it for 2 weeks. I ran the numbers with Patricia. I talked to my mother, who listened and asked good questions and didn't tell me what to do. I talked to Ashley, who said it sounded scary and exciting and she believed I could handle it. I told my colleague yes. We opened the new agency in January. I brought 38 active clients. She brought 42. By March, we had added 17 more. The letterhead says Collins and Martinez Insurance Services. My last name first because I brought in more revenue in the first quarter. I have an office with a window. I have a salary and profit sharing. I have a business partner who respects my work and doesn't try to manage my life. At a family dinner in April, Derek asked me about the new agency, how it was going, what the growth plan looked like, whether I was thinking about hiring. I answered his questions. He listened. He didn't offer advice. Afterward, my mother pulled me aside. He's trying. I know. Is it working? A little. She smiled. That's enough for now. Marcus is 7 now. He still has the card he made for Derek. He keeps it in a box under his bed along with other things that matter to him. A rock he found at the beach. A toy car his father gave him that he barely remembers. A picture of my father holding him when he was 2. Last week, Marcus asked me about college again. He wanted to know when he would go, what it was like, whether he had to. I told him he had a long time before he had to decide. But if he wanted to go, he could. Grandpa had made sure of that. Marcus asked if he could see Grandpa's letter. I got it out of the safe deposit box and showed it to him. He read it slowly, tracing the words with his finger. Grandpa's handwriting is messy, he said. It is. But he loved me. He did. Very much. Marcus folded the letter carefully and handed it back to me. Can I keep this when I'm older? It's already yours. I'm just holding it until you're ready. Okay. He thought for a moment. Did Uncle Derek learn his lesson? What lesson? Not to be mean about people's cards. I smiled. Yeah, baby. I think he did. The account is at $237,000 now. Marcus is 7. By the time he turns 18, if I keep contributing at the current rate and the market keeps performing, he'll have close to $400,000. Maybe more. He won't have student loans. He won't have to work full-time while going to school. He won't have to choose between a degree he wants and a degree he can afford. He'll have choices. Because his grandfather loved him. And because I turned that love into something that would last. My family knows now. They know about the money, the business, the foundation I built while they thought I was struggling. They know I didn't need their help. That I never did, not the way they thought. Some of them have apologized. Some of them are still processing. Some of them will probably never fully understand why I stayed quiet as long as I did. I don't need them to understand. I just need them to respect it. And most days, they do. So, did I go too far? Or not far enough? Tell me in the comments.